Both 2CTV and GB News went off the deep end this week when they tried to report on the march, and quite frankly made up a lot of garbage.
The supporters of the European Union were back on the streets in central London yesterday, continuing their fight against democracy.
Well, that's an interesting little banger, isn't it? Because essentially what he's saying is, once we've made a decision, you can't change your mind.
Brexit means Brexit. We've made our decision. We're going to get over it. We're going to move on. I love the stubborn Britishness of that. We've made our decision. Well, we don't know what's going to happen. We've made our decision. It could be a disaster. We've made our decision. We could all die. We've made our decision.
Hate to say it, Mayor, but if you're going to turn around and tell people that they can't change their mind, it sounds more like an authoritarian state than it does a democracy.
The initial idea was to get hundreds of thousands of people to come to central London. Then they made an announcement a few days before saying we are expecting tens of thousands of people. But the whole thing massively backfired. No.
I don't think it did. It seemed like actually quite a spectacular success, but unfortunately the news and mainstream media didn't want to know, but GB News did. We'll come on to them later.
Basically, the reality of the situation was you had a few hundred people here, a few hundred people in the other corners, and the official figures that we now have is the National Rejoin March attracted around 3,000 people.
Except those figures were plucked out from the Independent, and let's face it, they're not really that independent a newspaper. But on top of that, we now have the figures from the London Met. And according to the National Rejoin March, you've got their figures from the Metropolitan Police. It was well in excess of 20,000. But okay, we all make mistakes, and we needed to see the actual Met figures themselves, not just relying on the National Rejoin March. So let's now listen to GB News trying to catch out EU dreamers.
Europe needs a bath.
No, with Bath for Europe.
Oh.
So GB News are trying to take a page out of Georgian Klepper's book. He's a journalist who interviews people and hilariously dismantles their arguments.
Obviously, this administration is doing all it can to pit each other against each other.
Yeah, every way, shape, and form, they've been trying to divide it.
Yeah, it's like this administration is giving the middle finger to half the country.
The whole country, if you ask me.
And that's
the
just
whole damn country.
Europe needs a bath.
Activism, yes.
But they weren't done yet with their lovely humour.
Given that the majority now want to rejoin the EU,
Hang on, but where's that from?
The Green Party, I'm going to do a politician bit now and just keep talking.
You can't just say 60% of Brits want to rejoin. Where's that from?
No newspaper.
Who, The Guardian?
Maybe Newsnight.
Whether it was right or wrong to leave suggests that many more think it was wrong, now by 54% to 34%. And that thinking now includes nearly a fifth of leavers, prompting talk of regret.
But what would be good are multiple sources looking at this from every single angle. And we have that. And interestingly, we don't have anyone really showing any popular support for staying out of the EU since April 2022. Ever since then, it's been going up and up and up, eventually culminating in an area anywhere as high as 22%, but averaging probably in the 10 to 11% region of people wanting to rejoin.
Everything in the EU was elected.
Hang on, that's not right to say the EU leaders are elected. No one in this country voted for Guy Verhofstadt.
Well, no, he's Belgian, so only Belgians vote for him. Maybe he meant Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU. Well, has any British person voted for him? Well, yes, the Prime Minister at the time. Theresa May would have voted, but it isn't just Theresa May because she's in the Council of Europe. The European Parliament, which we voted for, would also then confirm that, which had British MEPs in at the time. What is this kid talking about?
Its operations are far more democratically run than in the House of Commons.
Well, they've not audited their accounts for about 30 years.
So, the head of states are elected by us, and the Parliament is elected by us. Sounds pretty democratic. And then the council chooses the commission and is ratified by the parliament. So what the is he talking about? But it gets better because he started talking about auditing when the guy was telling him about democracy. So we've got parliament, we don't elect the House of Lords, we don't elect the Supreme Court, and we don't elect the head of state, the monarch. And no one has voted in Rishi Sunak. But that's not all. If you're Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, you're not allowed to vote out when you decide you want to vote out. You have to stay in and get permission. You don't in the EU. And on top of that, I've been saying for a while, Anguilla had no say on the EU and whether or not it wanted to remain, even though it has borders that are connected in the Caribbean to the EU. But if he wants to complain about audits, well, this is one of these conspiracy theories from the right. It's called the Court of Auditors, and they've been auditing EU accounts since 2007. What he also didn't say was that 86% of that budget goes back to the countries that have given the money into the EU for projects generally designed to help people get out of poverty. We can discuss whether or not they're effective enough, but that is the premise.
See, I voted in 1975.
That 75 vote was
No, it wasn't to do with the...
was purely on a trading
No, it
basis, wasn't it?
No, it absolutely wasn't.
The EU has morphed
You
into
weren't there,
something.
were you?
No, I wasn't
No,
born.
exactly.
No, but I
You weren't
know
born,
what the vote was.
No, but I do, because I voted in
He
it.
clearly doesn't know what the vote was, because if he did, he wouldn't have brought that up. And it's one of these like conspiracy theory myths that Brexiteers seem to want to bring up all the time. When you join the EEC, it comes with certain stipulations, such as freedom of movement, freedom of trade, the freedom to move capital. But also, it's clearly enshrined in the EEC that this project is to bring us all closer together. That's why it moves into the EU, the Common Agricultural Policy, and eventually what will become the European Bank. The kid hasn't got a clue as to what he's talking about. But what I will say is, that guy dispatches him quite well. This guy's no Jordan Klepper, he's a crapper.
See, I voted in 1975.
That 75 vote was
No, it wasn't to do with the...
was purely on a trading
No, it
basis,
wasn't.
wasn't it?
No, it absolutely wasn't.
The EU has morphed
You weren't
into
there,
something.
were you?
No, I wasn't
No,
born.
exactly.
No, but I
You
know
weren't born,
what the vote was.
No, but I do, because I voted in it.
So my question to all of you is, what do you miss about the EU? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Once again, thank you to all of my YouTube and Patreon supporters who keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to help the channel, feel free to click that like and subscribe button, especially if you've got this far, or feel free to buy me a coffee. Thanks for listening, bye for now.